It's your main man, King Castro X, coming at you guys live and direct with another live episode of the Comic Cons podcasts, kids. Young Master Jules could not be here today. One of these days, I'm gonna get my brother in for the lives and the extra content, right outside of the old comic shop. He's currently being a father, so the best hero he could possibly be. Shout out to my guy, love you, Jules. But ladies and gentlemen, we have gathered here for a very special moment and time in all of history. Not only is it the 2023 Game Awards coming in December, I think, but we have some very special guests in the building. You know one of these special guests, but today he decided to bring one of his teammates over there at Red Shirts Remastered. Man, really cool guys. They do a lot of video game content. They stream a lot of nerd content from what I'm understanding from where I've seen them a lot, man. They did the Twitch thing for quite some time. They're doing the YouTube thing. Just an overall dope podcast in a sense, man. They you know what I'm saying? They cover all kinds of great nerd content. Again, you guys have seen SF again and again and again. We may have another pop in a little later. Shout out to Young Gannon. But today, ladies and gentlemen, our special guests, I'd like to welcome in Young SF the Genius and my boy Gio the Sage. Welcome in, boys. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great.
Pretty good.
Right on.
Pretty good.
As I was saying off air, I'll kind of spill my heart out really quick for the audience watching as well. Man, it's a pleasure to have you both here. SF, you know I love having you here. You're literally my most reoccurring. What's good, JDB? Welcome to the chat. My most reoccurring guest at this time. So you've been here, I think, 4 to 5 times now. Gio, this is your first time here. I was telling you off air. I've been waiting to get the yeah, definitely. I've been waiting to get the red shirts in here for quite some time since I first saw you guys go live on Twitch, since SF, linked me and things of that matter, man. So you know what I'm saying? It's a pleasure to finally have you here. I hope all is well. I hope you're ready to talk about video games, because that's going to be super fun. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing here today is we picked 5 categories. To us, what we felt were the most banger of categories, kids. The most important, the most relevant, the reason we all come here. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 great categories. I think it's best adaptation, best performance, best multiplayer, game of the year, and most anticipated game, guys. You can look at the options on the Game Awards website, or I'll have them pulled up here, and you can discuss with us here in the chat what you feel the top picks should be or whatever. But anyway, welcome in, everybody. Red Shirts, without further ado, would you guys like to hop into our first little tidbit here?
I'm ready for it. Before we do, I think it's important to mention this is only 5 categories of what is 31. There's a lot of them. Very true. There's a lot of them. You can go to the Game Awards website and you can actually vote for yourself on all of these categories as well. I haven't completely gone through it yet, but I will after this. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
I will say as well, I want to be completely upfront and honest with those watching at home. Ladies and gentlemen, by no means am I a video game expert. I play what I like, and that means I've not played a lot of these games. So I just want you guys to know that I'm speaking. My opinion is based off of bullshit. It's not complete. I have no resource. I'm not the guy for this. But shout out to SF, man. He brought this idea to me, and here we are, man. Big love to him. Big love to the Red Shirts, guys. I know SF is a heavy gamer. My man is very knowledgeable in that world. Gio, are you quite the gamer, my brother?
I'm a pretty big gamer. I would say the thing is, though, I'm in the same boat as you. There's a lot of these games that I haven't played, but it's to the point now where I go for quality over quantity. I'm not going to hit every game that comes out.
Yes,
I'm going to go at what I think is going to give me the most enjoyment for the most amount of time. And on top of that, like I'm willing to sit for a little while before I touch a game. There's a lot of games I played this year that came out the year before, or maybe 2-3 years ago, or I'll go back to the classics, right? So I do play a lot of games, especially over my whole life. I've been a huge gamer, but yeah, there's certainly some of the games in this category that I haven't played, but I also keep abreast of the news and the reviews, things like that. So it's not, I'll know something about them at the very least.
Definitely. I definitely operate off of the same mindset, man. For me, and I think it should be the same for everybody. At least if it's not cool, shout out to you guys. Do you? But you know what I'm saying? It's all about playing what you like, man. Find that game that locks in with you, holds you. I have an issue of like waiting for you know what I'm saying, to play a game though, like a year later, if it comes out and it's something I'm hot on and interested in, like I'm dying right now. Unfortunately, I'm not playing Resident Evil 4 remake because I'm poor. But I did just spend $700 on a PS5 and Spider-Man 2 and cop that immediately. You know what I'm saying? But I do have an itch. You know what I'm saying? I'm craving my games. But I completely get you, man. Yeah, I operate off of the same mindset. JDB in the chat says, I fucks with Gio's answer because it's the same for me. So, you know what I mean? He's also relating. Giosha, the official spokesperson for JDB at this moment. So you're his spirit animal right
Giosha.
now. So you're doing good. You're doing good.
That's a good
Ignore
one.
the autocorrect. Oh, I liked that name, Giosha. It reminds me of what's that planet X-Men where Genosha? Is that what it is?
Genosha?
Yeah,
Genosha,
you're right.
correct. That's what it made me think of. Anyway, kids, like I said, we may have a fourth pop in today, man. Young Gannon, if he wakes up. I don't know what my boy's doing, but shout out to Young Gannon. Definitely want to give him his love. But anyway, without further ado, kids, or SF, do you want to give him a little background on your gaming history?
My gaming history, yeah, I have such a wide variety of taste and like so much, right? And so I like to try to play a lot of these games, and so it's anytime the Game Awards are here, I like to try to play as many of the Game Awards that I can, not necessarily beforehand, but like add it to my list of stuff. Hey, I'd like to play this, right? And so a lot of the games that I haven't played, that's on the Game Awards list, at least for the main game of the year, were either ones that was already on my wish list, or I think there's one in particular that got added that's made me have a lot more interested in it since seeing it, and we'll go into that in a bit. And so, but the point is, I like to try to play a lot of different kinds of games, and you know, and kind of in a similarish mindset, I like to try, you know, while I like to try a lot, I always spend more time with what I know I like the most, right?
Definitely.
And so, you know, you only have so much time in the day, and being so busy with so much different things, there's only so much time I can game in a day, right?
100%.
Want to make it worth it.
Man. I definitely agree. Really quick, I want to address chat. Young Russ the Must has returned with finally. By the way, the Madam Web looks trash. So we're not even addressing Madam Web today, but I will say I watched the trailer. Still excited for it because I'm a glass half full kind of guy, but the action looked really, really, really mid to me. And like their highlight moments in the trailer, like there's a joke in the trailer that was not at all funny, that like it just shouldn't have been in it. It was really cheap, just lame. I was like, what is this? What is this trash? I had no idea this movie was even coming out. So
it's funny. I haven't seen the trailer, but I gotta watch it. You know what made me think of? I was just reading up on this. I don't know if you guys saw the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s. That's one of my favorites. And
same.
There was Madam Web was featured pretty heavily in that. And,
as an old woman.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that it was voiced, if I'm not mistaken, it was voiced by Stan Lee's wife at the time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, who had no acting experience prior to that. But she did, if you've seen it, she did an excellent job in that. So that's cool. If you want some backstory on like a film screen adaptation of that character, that'd be a good one to check out. I would recommend it.
I definitely would agree with you. I didn't know that. First off, that's an amazing fact. But she plays the old woman it's near the end of this series, correct? Madam Web, when she gets involved.
Yeah, well, I think she shows up like throughout the middle, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, definitely.
Before you guys move on, is this before Spider-Man? So I think it's current, like in the universe happening. So in the Amazing Spider-Man series, I know she's the one who brings in like the multiversal stuff with like all the other Spider-Mans.
Supposedly, it's about saving a baby version of Peter Parker. So you see, supposedly one of the guys in the trailer is like a younger Uncle Ben.
And Aunt May. He said Aunt Mary, but Aunt May, I think, is what he meant to say.
Yeah. So it's weird of getting like these other multiversal, I guess, Spider-Woman, right, to try to help save a baby Peter Parker from whatever this thread is. So I don't know.
I did see there were a few different Spider Women. I am interested in that. That'll be cool, I guess. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this movie.
Nobody did. Nobody did.
For Tom Holland and Tom Hardy collab film is what I asked for. Venom and Spider-Man.
I'll be honest. Unless I'm missing something, I don't see the Madam Web and Madam Web. Like, is she meant to be one of the 3 Spider-Lady? Because like none of them gave me Spider or Madam Web vibes. You know, like I don't know who it is.
From what I know of it, right? Amazing Spider-Man. I don't consider her a Spider-Woman. I consider her just Madam Web. She's kind of like I don't know, not a wizard, but like she has the vibe of like, I understand the galaxy. Like, because she does with multiversal shit. I agree with Russ here saying the trailer looked like a fan film, which is... Shout out to fan films. Fan films are great if that's what you're doing. But like here we are, we're Marvel. You know what I'm saying? Marvel and Sony. We got money. I don't know what this movie is. But we continue to make flops, guys. Shout out to you. Anyway, without further ado, kids, let's jump into this content here. The first category we're starting with, this is gonna look really sloppy, just a heads up, FYI. This is my first time doing like a slideshow. Never even at work have I done something like this. So we're going to give this a shot. We're going to start off with the first category. First category being best adaptation. That's video game turned live action, a TV show or film. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Yeah, I love fan films, but Marvel has Disney money is all. I agree. I know you're a big supporter of independent films as well. Russ, you're very involved with the independent community here in the city and stuff. Shout out to Russ and Most. Check out Oki Podcast. Live or best adaptation, kids. Here we go with the choices. I already have mine picked. I think Dingus has his. Gio, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look, but here we go. Here's the reveal, kids. Let's do this. All right. Best adaptation. Video game adaptation turned live action film. Now, we've had many over the years.
Film series.
Yeah. But here we are. We got Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Twisted Metal. In chat, let us know what you guys think down below. Do one of you want to give your opinion first, or do you guys want me to hop in?
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to begin with saying this is, I think, out of all years at Game Awards, this is the most interesting category, or well, not the most interesting category. This is the most interesting picks for this year's category because it's a case of where I'd argue all these projects are at the very least a solid fun watch, right? There's no, we're in a day and age where I think we're in a day and age to where we have all these adaptations are actually good. You know, they're not a lot of the trash stuff that we used to get, right? And so at the very least, it's fun, right? Like the Mario Bros. Movie, it wasn't great, but it was a really fun watch. Same with Twisted Metal. Those are both really fun watches. I recommend, honestly, I recommend everything on this list here is to go watch because I enjoyed all of this.
I'll probably never watch Gran Turismo. Keeping it a buck, but from what I'm just telling you guys honest, but from what I understand, you're a big Castlevania fan, so you'll have a little bit to say towards that. I don't know a lot about it, but I hear Twisted Metal was, as you said, basically just kind of a good time. Super Mario Bros. Being the same thing. We all know the pinnacle of what The Last of Us, so how the greatness, kids. But we're not gonna. I'm not gonna say my pick yet. Wink, wink.
Oh, but there's an obvious one that stands out here to everybody. I feel like, you know, but
definitely. Gio, how you feeling? And we'll start with you. Put the pressure on you, brother.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go with this. I didn't see Twisted Metal, but I heard a lot of good things about it. So I could see maybe after watching that, maybe switching my pick. But based on what I've seen and of these 5, I would probably go with Castlevania. Wow. I think that studio really does need some praise for what they've done with the IP over on Netflix. So I think it's worth acknowledging. You know, I have some issues with The Last of Us and the Mario Bros. Movie. Gran Turismo is a different kind of thing. Like Chris was saying in the chat, it involves the game, but it's not like an adaptation of Gran Turismo because there isn't much of a storyline in the games, right? It's a simulation. So, I mean, but I guess it depends on your criteria of what you would pick, right? So we might all have different criteria of what is the best adaptation.
Definitely.
Me personally, I would have to go with Castlevania.
I respect it. I love
obviously,
that you chose that.
That is a close second for me. I'll say that. I love that series. And you're absolutely right. We need more attention to Powerhouse, and what they do at Netflix is absolutely amazing. And shout out to the new Masters of the Universe that's coming out in a couple months.
Welcome in, Chris. I will say, from what I've heard from USF as the Castlevania head, you know what I'm saying? You make it sound good. So it is on my to-watch list. Gran Turismo, again, I don't necessarily have interest in watching it, Chris. But you say it's a good movie, man. I'm going to take your word on it. Really quick, Rustamus says Gran Turismo is a Fast and Furious wannabe. Twisted Metal was trash, and we have to wait for season 2 to get what we wanted all along. Castlevania is a waste of time. That's crazy. That's crazy. With that being said, SF, we'll jump into how you're feeling, man, your pick and your opinions.
Well, I mean, my pick has to be The Last of Us. I feel like I'm kind of in a weird minority with this one because it's one to where I actually enjoyed the show more than I did the game itself. Like the story of it just resonated more with me than it did with the game, and I feel like all the changes they did just worked better for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And also, The Last of Us show it accomplishes something that no show has ever done with me, and that's without saying too much. If you know that Bill and Frank episode, it's essentially
episode 3.
It's like it's kind of its own standalone episode, right? And so with that being said, you're introduced to these characters, and in that episode, I've never been so connected with a character over just 1 hour to make me have tears by the end of it. I've never ever felt that for anything, right? And so that for that episode alone, it's already up there. And then all the Joel and Ellie stuff in it was great as well. Shout out to Pedro Pascal being the ultimate daddy out here, right? Not only is he Mandalorian with Grogu out here, but now he's Joel here. So
I'll have to agree with you, man. We talked about this yesterday, man, and I know you're a big Nintendo fan as well. So I definitely felt your choices was going to be Castlevania or the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I don't know how that could be a thing, but yeah, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I definitely got to say it's The Last of Us, man. To me, the show was phenomenally written. You brought up episode 3 with the two dudes. I don't remember their names, but phenomenal writing. That was definitely emotional roller coaster. My wife made fun of me because I cried. I don't know how. It was impactful. She knows she felt that shit. But again, Pedro Pascal and old girl that plays Ellie, just phenomenal, man. I had a blast, just like I had a blast when I played the game, right? The first game, one of the best games to me of all time. You know what I mean? The show was really good. It was great. Hopefully good things for season 2. I haven't watched Twisted Metal yet. I am a 90s kid, and I'm seeing here that there's a lot of Easter eggs and things like that. That's awesome. Haven't watched Castlevania yet either. So at the end of the day, kids, I gotta go with The Last of Us for me personally as best. You know what I'm saying? Video game to
right.
TV show adaptation. So movie adaptation, whatever. This is TV show. So yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Go ahead. You got it.
No, lots of good stuff here, and so it's a really interesting category, I feel, this year.
I want to go ahead and take some time for chat. Twisted Metal was great, but if you are not a 90s kid, it won't resonate with you. That's from Chris. Russ says, I grew up in the 90s. I'm 35. I played all the games, kid. My boy Russ is so aggressive. I love you, man. Again, check out Oki Podcast, kids. Twisted Metal, he's not aggressive on the podcast. He's actually very sweet and Genuine. It's weird when he gets to typing, man. Energy changes. Twisted Metal, but not because of the games, but because of the '90s Easter eggs. You are right. Next season will be more about the games.
Yeah.
This season was more of a setup.
That's true. I'll say that's very much closer aligned with like what Castlevania was too, from my understanding. Is it Rondo of Blood? I think.
Yeah, that's definitely. I think that's what they adapted off of. But yeah, that's one of the games.
Right.
No, I think we had talked about this, and that was the
right. I think it was more of like a prequel to Rondo of Blood.
They're trying to set up that storyline to because that leads into Symphony of the Night.
Right.
Okay. I'm just impatient. I remember as a kid, all I wanted was an all-out war type of movie or series of Twisted Metal. But I hope all that will be in season 2 of Twisted Metal. Again, I will say I'm a fan of Anthony Mackie as well. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed his career. He started off in 8 Mile, battle rap and Eminem. I don't know if a lot of you guys know that, but as Papa Doc, and the next thing you know, he's Captain America's, new right hand until Bucky pops back up. But it's pretty dope. And he becomes Captain America, and now here he is, in the Twisted Metal universe. So I like Anthony Mackie, man. So
I think that he did a lot better as being an original character than the one in the Mortal Kombat movie. I don't remember his name, so I guess that. Well, I don't remember.
I don't even remember him being in that movie.
Well, not Anthony Mackie. I'm saying the.
I was going to say.
I'm saying comparing the original characters, right? Because it's the same character idea to where Anthony Mackie's character in Twisted Metal is an original character to the series, or to the franchise, right? And
so his character's not in the game.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And so, and the new Mortal Kombat movie did something similar like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, they did.
What
that's like a common narrative plot device is you put a character in that the fans can relate to, because if they're just coming into the series, they need like questions answered, and then you have that new character who can kind of fill that role. So that again, I didn't watch Twisted Metal, but that could have been what they're doing with that. And so I definitely think you can pull off a new character in a show and have them fill that role, or do something similar.
Definitely. I think that's a valid point. Again, it's on my to watch list, kids. I've yet to see it. Johnny Cage should have just been the straight man of Mortal Kombat. I knew that the movie was going to be bad first time I watched the trailer. I've not watched the Mortal Kombats. I have no interest. I like the old Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that first one. The first one's a classic. I saw that in theaters back in 1995. So I'm a big fan of the first Mortal Kombat. The new one is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So
right on.
That tells you my thoughts on it.
This is live, Young Mellow. Welcome to the chat, man. Welcome to the chat. Not gonna lie, I don't have faith in a Twisted Metal movie. Now, if they combine universes with Death Race and put Jason Statham in it, fucking fire. That's JDB. Was that Gio that reacted?
Yeah, that's an option. I never even considered that.
You two need to start a podcast. It's looking like you guys. Anyway, boys, the new Gore looked bad. Goro. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Moving on to the second category of the day. I wish it was nice, like of the night. It feels more epic. But do we have any final thoughts on best adaptation, boys?
I think we're pretty good there. Last of Us for the win.
Last of Us, and then Gio picked Castlevania. W man. Can we just get this over with and say Fast 10 was the best movie of the? I hate the Fast movies. They're literally garbage. Why'd you start this? I will rant. The Fast movies should not exist after 1 and 2. They're horrible.
Castro family.
No, dude. The Bat family is the only family I'm concerned with right now. Check it out. I'm going to tell you like this really fast, kids. You know what I'm saying? The Fast movies after 1 and 2 should not have existed. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is not a good actor outside of being Rock in WWF, kids. After that, his career should have probably stopped there. they're horrible films. Dom, the only good role he's ever had is when he says 3 words, and that's "I am Groot." Other than that, I'm done with the guy. I'm completely done. So that's how I feel about that. I swear I'm going to lose audience. I keep saying these things.
Hey man, it's your show. You're entitled to have your opinion.
I got to keep it honest with the world, man.
If that's my policy too, is like, just give your honest opinion, because I think you lose more viewers if people were like, this MFer's capping.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just got to keep it honest, especially when, unfortunately, man, you know, our audience, man, they're subjected to these horrible movies like Fast, and like they believe it's good. I gotta tell them, like, no, you're wrong. Like, you're watching the wrong stuff, man. Yeah, man. Boy, hold up, Castro. Dwayne ain't that bad. Dwayne he's garbage. Anyway, Black Adam was a horrible movie. It was terrible. All right, we'll move on, kids. You guys getting me worked up today, Chad. I see you. Our next category, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, is for, I forgot it after I just looked, all that hype for nothing. Best performance. Now, this would be best performance in a video game. So that's like voice actor, stuff like that, kids. So here we go. Best performance in a video game. Ladies and gentlemen, our choices are Ben Starr from Final Fantasy. Cameron, don't know, Monaghan. How do you say this man's last name?
Monaghan. Yeah.
Monaghan. From Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the daddy of all daddies for me personally, Idris friggin' Elba, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Mulaney Lieberd, from Alan Wake 2. I think that's how you say her name. If I mess it up, then I'm sorry. Neil Newborn, Baldur's Gate 3, and Yuri Lowenthal, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a stacked lineup, also some stacked games to be involved with. I'll say that. I personally have a top 3 here. I know my answer. And one of these guys are on my top list just because I feel like the effort put into the game by this man was phenomenal, but he's still not my choice. Gio, we're going to take it on back to you again, if you don't mind starting us off. How you feeling, baby? What are we doing?
So, I mean, if you know me, I'm a big Idris Elba fan. So you'd think, like, you know, that'd be my first pick, because I'll watch anything that he's in. Like, he's great. Been a fan of his ever since The Wire. So
I'd agree.
That being said, I think I'm honestly going to go with Cameron on this one. I'm a fan of his as well, and one thing that he's brought into that role over the 2 games. I think he's done a good job making you invested in that character and being a believable character in the Star Wars universe. And I think that's really important, especially when you have a main character and it's in a established franchise and it's a new character. It's like you need someone that's not necessarily relatable, but just has a likability to them and can be believable in that universe. And I've been a fan of his and other stuff, but I thoroughly enjoyed him in that role. So I'll probably give it to him just for that reason.
Definitely. I completely respect that and agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, I just feel like the effort that this kid put in for this particular game franchise was phenomenal. Really quick, SF, we're about to get to you. I want to take a second. Chat's kind of growing here. I want to talk to them. DC movies in general suck ever since the Snyder Cut, exception of the Batman. I agree, kind of. Idris Elba, they put him in shit roles, but his walking down or whatever, that this movie was nice. Even the one where he was called the Tooth Fairy. The Rock is trash. Hands down, Maini Han. What is this?
Moynihan?
He's saying Moynihan, I think.
Moynihan. Oh, okay. Thank you. Chris. Chris says guy from Boulder Gates 3 won the golden joystick for it. Chris, I ain't gonna lie, I'm biased on this list. Let us know your choice. I like Idris Elba on The Office. He was my least favorite boss. but he was cool, still cool to get him on there. Cameron sounds like SpongeBob. Yuri is a Mark Campbell wannabe. Mulaney sounds like Bobby Hill. Neil is a no, and Ben Starr is trash and hot ones.
Just cutting down everybody, eh?
Just destroying. He's not like this in real life. He's a really nice guy, I promise. You ever go on his podcast, he's like, he makes you feel warm and good inside. He has a dog and stuff, man. He's a good guy, I promise, kids. This is not the real Russ here, Russell Sunday. I love Idris, but Gio is right. He is the face of that Star Wars lineup. I got confused for a second. I definitely agree, man. I agree. Cameron was phenomenal. You read that wrong, laughed my ass off. Yo, bias ass, just love wrestling, but hate The Rock. The Rock's my favorite. That's what's crazy. The Rock's my favorite professional wrestler. Like, he's the greatest of all time, but he's horrible at acting. I'm gonna call it as is, kids. All right, Dingus. What are we doing here, my brother? What's your choice? Why? Did you have a top 3 or all that good stuff?
Yeah. There's 3 that stand out most to me here, and it kind of makes it like a close 3-way race for me. We have Cameron, a fantastic performance in Survivor. Neil from Baldur's Gate, his character in Baldur's Gate is, from what I've played of it with his character, he's pretty good, and other stuff I've seen with him. And of course, we have Yuri with Spider-Man, right? And I think both for Spider-Man and Cal Kestis, their characters really evolved more in each of their respective sequels. And so big props to them for each elevating on their character and giving fantastic performances. However, I think for me, I think I agree with Gio's pick here. Cameron would be my pick here, though. I think he did an absolute amazing job on Jedi Survivor. Definitely my favorite performance of all these.
I completely respect your opinion. I will say here, kids, as I'm getting into this, my opinion has changed. I thought about something. Okay, so my top 3 are obviously going to be, I'm a big Idris Elba fan, kids. I like him in the movies. So he's on my top 3. Definitely Cameron. And then I just got done playing Spider-Man 2, which was an amazing game. Probably my favorite game this year so far. It was so good. Lots of twists, turns, ups and downs. We'll talk about that a little later. But I got to thinking, right? Voice acting. It's definitely a skill, definitely an art. Amazing. Now, what we're talking about here is best performance, and that is a performance. But my man Cameron not only performed voice-wise, but he also was in the game. The real life guy was in the game, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that. Idris Elba was too, but it's a mid-ass DLC. I'm sorry, I haven't played it, but I'm just like, it's not going to be the Star Wars game. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you didn't hear what Idris said though? It's not. I can't do his accent. It's not DLC. It's an expansion.
It's not DLC. It's an expansion. That's fire, guys. We gotta
don't do DLC.
I thought I was gonna choose Spider-Man. I thought I was gonna choose young Yuri here. I don't know if he's that young. He looks a little older. But you know what I'm saying, guys? I gotta agree with you. Literally last night, me and SF discussed this whole thing. It was gonna be Spider-Man, and I got to really thinking, we're talking performance, real performance. It had to be Cameron. Cameron's the W. He's the man for this. So that's how I'm feeling. I agree with you guys. So Star Wars down the board on this one. You know what I'm saying? I definitely agree. The Rock sucks. He's an Oprah. He was on Oprah begging for money. Take in Cameron. His last name also had his face scanned into the game. Again, that's what I'm saying, bro. Dude was in the actual game. The only other person that did it was Idris, and I just don't feel like it's messing with the effort that I hate slaughtering people. I feel Idris put in great effort too, kids, but he's just not Cameron here. Honestly, Idris is gonna win it off Star Factor, or Cameron will win it off series love factor. He's backed up by Star Wars, bro. He's in the bag, and I feel like the audience resonates and messes with Cameron 10 times harder than Idris. But go ahead, SF.
I feel like kind of Spider-Man's in a huge spotlight right now too, as well as
Very true.
I mean, like I said, I feel like it's a very close 3-way race here. I mean, also everything I hear about Alan Wake 2 is amazing as well. So I feel like this is a very close one.
I mean, and let's not forget, Final Fantasy doesn't miss. I haven't played the game, but Final Fantasy casts phenomenal people all the time. I'm sure Ben Starr here did extraordinary. You know what I'm saying? But Cameron, he did it. He had a poncho, guys. You know what I'm saying?
One thing I think is worth mentioning as well is this is an award show, and it's not always just like who was straight up the best. There's a lot of like other factors that are involved, and sometimes, you know, if a game is winning like best game or whatever, for example, then they might give a different person an award for a different, even though they should have won both. So there are a lot of other factors that are involved as well, and it's you know, it's the fan voting only counts for 10% in these, by the way. So there's a lot of factors, but you know, obviously we only can go off of what we know. So
right, it's a valid personal opinion is what we're doing here today. Chat.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean. All right, so across the board, ladies and gentlemen, we're going with young Cameron here from Star Wars. Correct, boys?
Yes, sir.
Yep, yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, time for our third category, ladies and gentlemen, and that is multiplayer. Now, this is a multiplayer-based game, a game you can play with your friend at home or online. I keep trying to do like a thing, you know what I mean? I'm trying to add some pizzazz.
You have something going on.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, best category for best multiplayer. We have Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4. Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. How we feeling today, Gio?
Ooh, for that one, I might have to go Baldur's Gate 3 for that. Just because the vast amount of possibilities you can have in a game like that with multiplayer, because it really lends itself to creating new characters, creating new scenarios. And you can have like a decent sized party. So there's a lot to like as far as that goes. I know it might not be the traditional multiplayer game that some people, they might think like a Street Fighter 6. That's totally is like a multiplayer game. Or like even when you look at Party Animals, I'm sure they developed that with multiplayer in mind from the start. So there's stuff like that. But I think when even Diablo really, but I don't know, something about Baldur's Gate 3, and I think that's the one I would see a lot of people spending the most time with in multiplayer. And then like even with those of us here, right? Spencer's done a good amount of that. You can see some of the stuff on the Council of Six. They did a bunch of streams for Baldur's Gate 3, which were very entertaining. So you can see the possibilities when it comes to a game like that in a multiplayer. That's maybe not people's first choice in terms of like off the top of their head. But I think when you look into it and the possibilities, that I think it deserves some credit there. Definitely.
So I have yet to play any of these games, boys. So I'm basing literally my choice off of what you guys have to say about it. I wish I was more familiar with the multiplayer mechanics when it comes to these games. Chat says all trash. Where's Madden 24? It's like playing D&D graphically, the modding, and it's coming to Xbox in December. I might have to check out Baldur's Gate then. But Baldur's Gate ain't Baldur's Gate is not high factored in multiplayer compared to Diablo. How do we feel about that?
I don't know what that even means. High factored, like.
Do you mean the like the multiplayer gameplay is not as in depth, or what are you saying? Only because Diablo 4 is live service. True. Yep. Watch Mario win again. I will say I can have more fun for a hell of a long time with Diablo than Baldur's Gate 3, but it's close. SF, what are you thinking, kid?
This is such an interesting category again, much like the first one. These are all completely different kinds of games, right? We have a turn-based RPG game that replicates D&D very well. We have Diablo 4, your overview, hack and slash, kill as much things as you can, build up your character. We have Party Animals, it's your party game. Street Fighter 6, your fighter. And then Super Mario Bros. Wonder, it's your platformer, family-friendly. It's Mario. I don't need to say anything else there. So, like, it's such an interesting mix of games that's competing against each other, and they're all like completely different from each other. However, it is hard for me because I think the three of these I've really delved into, they're all great. Those three being Mario Bros. Wonder. I was playing a lot of multiplayer over last weekend. I had a great time. Diablo 4 and Baldur's Gate 3, both of those are great as well. And so this is tough, but I think I think I probably agree with Gio though, just because it's Baldur's Gate. What it does is it's amazing for what it can do. Is that it's the first time where I've ever felt or seen in a video game where it really feels like D&D in a video game. And that's such an amazing feat considering how large D&D is. And so being able to recreate this D&D experience with your friends and having doing all these different things at once together in a world, it makes it feel great. And it's absolutely amazing. And I'll say I've enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3 a lot more of what I played on Council of Six compared to by myself. And so I'm definitely itching to do more.
Looks like JDB clarified a little bit there. He's saying Baldur's Gate 3 is more single player, and Diablo is built on multiplayer in mind. And then he says, I honestly don't think multiplayer when I think BG3. But I think that's exactly why I wanted to highlight it, because it's a lot of people think of it as a single player game, but like we've both been saying, it's like there's so much possibility with that game when it comes to multiplayer, and it's not the obvious choice, which isn't reason alone to pick it, but I think it just deserves some recognition in that regard. Whereas like a Diablo 4, for example, that was made, all the Diablo games have been made with multiplayer in mind, but there's a lot of problems with that game too, which I'm not really going to get into, but I wanted to highlight Baldur's Gate 3 for that.
I completely respect the possibilities for multiplayer in Baldur's Gate 3. That's what it sounded like from you guys, is that there's definitely a lot of room for multiplayer, but it sounds from what JDB's saying is that that's more single player based. Is that incorrect or correct?
Well, you can play it single player if you want.
So here think of it this way. So, in a D&D sort of party, you have your different players, right? Baldur's Gate 3, you get a party of 4. All right. So where that comes into is that you make your character, and then there's other characters that can come along. And for anybody else that joins the game, they make their character to join in as well. And so how it works is in this party of 4, for each person that joins in, they get to control their own character. Or if there's only 2 of us, say we can each control 2 characters of the 4. So that's how that works, right? So I think it works great either way. I wouldn't say it's more of a multiplayer than more of a single player, arguably, because I think it's very obvious intentionally played either way.
So it's a bit of both. It's whatever you want.
I'd say it's whichever you want. Exactly.
This is a tough one for me again, because I'm just not as familiar with a lot of these games, kids. Sure. I mean, you got Street Fighter 6. That's online combat, just throwing hands with one another. You know what I'm saying? As well as I've heard, you can go explore a world, quote unquote, a little world, and see other players and stuff like that. Don't know what the hell Party Animals is. But yeah, what the hell is that doing here?
I think that's the one that has no shot of winning. I think all the others have some sort of shot, but
I'm gonna go off of just the power back in the game. I mean, they've done multiplayer forever. I'm just gonna go with Mario, because I don't really have a reasoning, kids. I don't know these games as much, but I know Mario's been strong multiplayer-wise for forever. You know what I'm saying? Some of the best multiplayer games have been Super Mario, so I'll go with Mario today.
It's definitely the best family-friendly game on this list. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's probably the most accessible. Maybe Party Animals, but honestly, between the two, I would rather play the Mario for sure.
Oh, for 100%. Sure. I was gonna potentially go for Diablo, because that is very, very
it's great. It's
strong multiplayer wise.
That's been pretty strong too, and I think I give huge commemoration to them as well, just because they've been really good with making changes. They've been really good with listening to the community and implementing changes.
That's always amazing.
That's good,
and it's great. Yeah, season 2 fixed a lot of problems from season 1 when the period that they had to work with. And so it shows that they're really listening to people on their kind of like roadmap that they showed at BlizzCon. Not only did they reveal the big DLC, but they were like, okay, yeah, here's some other changes we're looking at implementing. And it's like, you can tell they're listening to the player base, and that's absolutely amazing.
I think that that's always important. Whenever the game developers, creators, whatever, are in touch with the community, they listen and hear what we want. That's how you get an overall just solid product. You know what I mean? And you keep them coming back. You keep us involved.
Yeah.
I think that's key. 100.
Yeah.
Really quick from JDB, and then we'll move on to the next category, boys. It's like Fable to me. It's an amazing single player, but when you play it with friends, it gets chaotically good. Chaotically good, he says. But Diablo is just drop in, hard decision, but Diablo has always been multiplayer since day one.
That's fair.
That's
a
valid point.
Diablo is great, though. Diablo is great. I'd say that's my personal close second. I don't know. It was a very close third way for me. Because here's the thing. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the best. But for me personally, if I was to go hop into a multiplayer, like a game right away, it would probably be Diablo. It would be like a personal thing. Like I play a lot more Diablo than I do Baldur's Gate 3 in a week.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a good point, because Baldur's Gate 3 does there's an investment involved there.
Yes.
Right? It takes some time to get into. Especially with the more people you add to that. Whereas, a game like a Diablo 4 or one of the other ones, it's more jump in and play. So that's gonna affect your personal preference, right? So,
right.
JDB says, "Wait, if this is about which one you have more fun with in multiplayer, then Mario's probably gonna win." I don't agree with that.
That brings up an interesting sort of thing here, right?
Go ahead.
I think what makes Game Awards really interesting is the fact where I don't think there's any one criteria of how to grade a video game, right? So much of it is personal enjoyment, what do you like the most? And yeah, there's just a lot of different ways people evaluate a video game, right? And so, in this case too, it's really like, okay, is it the best designed? Is it the best way to help people I guess people like keep up with the game? And so like there's a lot of different aspects you could look at it, right?
Absolutely.
For me, this isn't necessarily about which multiplayer game is the most fun. It's about multiplayer mechanics and how good is the damn multiplayer. Like that's key. It says best multiplayer. So to me, like that's where I think. Yeah,
right. That's the thing when you have it just says best multiplayer, right? Like that's the criteria you got. So it's like whatever to you makes it the best multiplayer. 100%. This is the same problem you have whenever you do like a top 5 list, right? It's like, what's the criteria? The criteria is going to depend on your choice, and the broader you make that criteria, the broader your answer is going to be.
Right.
So
right. Like I think most fun you could have is absolutely a way of how somebody can evaluate best multiplayer games, right? Just because that's the thing, right? Whenever you play these multiplayer games, your number one goal in any time is to have fun, right? And so I could see that being your number one sort of goal thing in mind that you're looking out for.
It's one of my beefs with the whole Game Awards thing, though, man, is I just don't feel like there's a description into like what the fuck you guys are looking for with these categories, man. We went over a couple. There's how many categories, SF? 31?
Yeah.
And just some of the wordage on someone's like, I don't know what the fuck you want here, man. Like, what are you asking of me, buddy? You know what I'm saying? I
feel like it's broad for a reason. So, but yeah.
Were you going to say something, Gio? I saw your thing light up.
I think they're I think they're still trying to figure things out at the Game Awards. But as well, it's an award show, and you see the same thing with the Oscars and stuff like that, where a lot of these picks are like the mainstream picks. There's not as much love to as many of the indie games, and it's all how it works. From what I understand, is they have like a panel of people, trusted people that pick these, and then that's what's going to be in your nominations, and then and then the fans can vote. Like I said, their vote counts towards like 10% or something like that, and and then that's what it is. So that's going to affect this to a certain extent, and obviously people are going to have issues with that when their game's not on there or something that they thought. Like, one thing I noticed is like Armored Core 6 got like one category out of all 31. So that's one that, you know, I'm personally might have wanted to see in more categories as a nomination.
Definitely. Really quick, welcome in Ryan the Collector Kid. You guys go check out Ryan the Collector Kid. He's a W collector, man. Collects all kinds of great figures
stuff
all over Australia, man. You've seen him, SF. Shout out to my brother. Dude's just a genuine, amazing human. Has some of the coolest retro figs I've ever seen, and he's also just mad knowledgeable when it comes to when it comes to figures and things like that. I definitely tune into his channel to learn. So check out Ryan the Collector Kid. Hit him with a sub. Classic Wolf, welcome in. Classic Wolf, check out Classic Wolf Podcast. Check out JDB, the real artist. Shout out to everybody in here. Chris, I think he's one part of the Red Shirts Remastered.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to everybody that's been here thus far, man. We're having an absolute blast with you guys. I know we're going a little long, but we have 2 more categories here, guys, and we're going to crush it. I'm actually looking at doing game and art design next year, too. That's awesome, man.
Nice.
Hopefully we get a good game from you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the category I have personally been waiting for the most.
It's the main one.
It's the big one, but we have another one after that. And I think that one's really up to personal opinion, heavy as well. This one, for me, straight fact. I mean, there's only one. There's only one, kids. It's all personal opinion. I just like being confrontational. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth. The reason we all came here, kids, game of the year is what we're here for, guys. Here we go.
Right.
So our game of the year options are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, or The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So, how are we feeling, boys? There's a lot of great games on this list here. One of these games I don't feel necessarily should be on the list, but we can get into that a little later. And it's actually one of my favorite games. I love it. I love the franchise. I'm just like, why are you here? Why? Anyway.
I want to hear what one that is at some point.
Man, I'm talking about Resident Evil 4. I'm like, it's a remake. Why is this on this list of like brand new game of the year? I guess because it came out this year, but for me, it's just like we already had this game way back in the day. I just don't feel it should be up here with these games, right? It's a respectable, amazing game. They did phenomenal with it. But you guys let me know what you think. Chat, you as well. If I'm wilding, then I'm wilding, and that's okay too. But I don't feel like it deserves to be game of the year. Remade game of several years ago maybe makes sense to me, but it is what it is.
I see your point, but that goes back to what I was saying about the criteria, right? So like some people might be perfectly fine with that, but then for yourself, you're like, I want to see something new and something original that take that title. So I can respect that.
No, you 100% hit the nail on the head, though. Again, that just further solidifies, like, personal opinion. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or in your criteria, how does this work for you? Like, what do you
could take 2 of the other games on this list at least and do that same thing? Like,
that's
it really just depends on how far you want to go with this, because Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel, and a lot of the stuff it did a lot of new things in that game, but it's building off of that Breath of the Wild, right?
That's a good
Spider-Man
point.
2 is a sequel, so it's doing a lot of same things from the first one. I mean, you could make that argument for a bunch of these games. So it just depends on like how far you really want to get into it, really.
That's definitely valid. That shuts up my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. SF will tell you, some of the chatters will say like that's my franchise, man. So, but I personally don't feel like maybe it needs to be on the game of the year list. I think it needs a category. One of the things I'm most sad about as well, kids, and we'll get into this, I feel like there should be a horror game of the year. There's some phenomenal horror games, and I don't see a single category showing love to that. It's very upsetting. But anyway, without further ado, kids, Gio, what are we doing? How are we feeling, baby?
Yeah, so there's some. It's a tough choice because you got Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, a lot of people love Resident Evil 4, and Spider-Man as well. Alan Wake's kind of sneaking in there. But I honestly, I might have to go with Baldur's Gate 3 again. And my reasoning for that on this category is because of the fact that, well, beyond all the stuff I already mentioned in previous categories, but this is a game where they spent years working on it, listening to the fans, and taking their time to perfect it. And by the time it came out, the full release, it was highly praised. So I think it just deserves recognition for what that studio did, and in listening to the fans, taking their time, and putting out a good product. No crappy microtransactions or anything like that. Just a straight up good game that, even if it's not your bag, I think you have to respect that to a certain degree. And it's not, it's okay, it's a sequel, it's Baldur's Gate 3, but realistically, it's one of the more original ones out of the 6, if you think about it. So I think there's a lot to praise about that game, and I think I just respect what they did for the most part with it, and I just want to highlight that. But I think, when you look at Tears of the Kingdom, Resident Evil 4, there's some really great options. It's one of those ones where it's a hard pick for sure. But I mean, without going in too negative in the other games, I think I would rather just focus on the positives on that one and say
definitely
it deserves some recognition, and I'm sticking with that.
So Baldur's Gate 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
WW. Really quick, let me take some time to read the chat. Well, I'm biased, but I really enjoyed RE4 Remake. It's my vote. A ton more effort is put into deving a remake compared to a remaster or port. From my understanding, RE4 was a full overhaul. Yeah, it was.
That's how I view it, is because it's as to why it's a game on this list, right? It's not a port. It's not a remaster. It's a remake, meaning everything had to be done from the ground up.
There's a lot of differences between Resident Evil 4 Remake and the original. Right. There's some very good YouTube videos you can check out that highlight those differences, for better or for worse. So you can see, it's not just a carbon copy of the original game.
Definitely.
So I think that's worth pointing out.
I definitely am looking to play it again. I'm a huge RE4 fan. Might even check out those videos. Might need to. The amount of work that went into Baldur's Gate 3, it really does deserve it. RE4 would be my second, and Spidey would be my third. I've been following Baldur's Gate 3 since Divinity OS2 came out, and I wanted more. That's dope, JDB. That's dope, man. SF, how we feeling? We got Geo on Baldur's Gate 3. What do you on, man?
Man, this is kind of a tough one for me. I've played 4 of the 6 here. The one Resident Evil 4, it wasn't a game that initially interested me. But then I saw gameplay of it. It's like, okay, this is the game that made me go back and buy Resident Evil 2 and 3 that I have yet to play yet. Then Alan Wake 2. That's I recently got the first one on PS Plus. I want to say it was on there a couple months ago. So I actually just downloaded it on my console last night so I can check the first one out before eventually getting to the second one. And so I've only heard great things about Alan Wake 2, but I intentionally haven't been looking into it as much just so I don't get spoiled. But I've heard, and the gameplay we saw of it at the One Xbox showcase looked really good.
Definitely. So what was that pick?
My pick, though, this is tough, though, right?
Sorry, I was reading chat.
No, you're all good. So for me, I feel like this is one of those cases where I want to differentiate. I think what's going to win, I think, is Baldur's Gate 3 for all the different reasons that was sort of given, right? And I, just piggybacking a lot of off of what Gio said just now, and from the best multiplayer, right? Because of all the different stuff that Baldur's Gate has done, I feel like that's the one that I'd agree brought the most new to the table, right? And that's ultimately why I felt like last year's Game of the Year, that's why I felt like Elden Ring won over God of War Ragnarok, right? And so I feel like that has the best chance of winning here.
Definitely. I completely respect that. It sounds like I need to get into Baldur's Gate, kids.
I will say though, I do have a personal pick though of what my personal favorite is out of these, and it probably is a big bias here, but the one I've spent the most time in was Zelda, and so I had a great time with that, and so that's definitely my personal pick.
That's kind of where I was going to go with it. I haven't played many of these games, kids. I've heard great things about Alan Wake 2. You guys are telling me phenomenal things about Re 4. I know Zelda. I really wanted to play Breath of the Wild, and then this came out, and I also really wanted to play this, Tears of the Kingdom. I hear these games are absolutely beautiful. So to spend some time in these worlds would be complete W. And again, I feel like the Zelda franchise has been pretty amazing thus far. Again, Mario, you can't miss with a Mario game. I mean, I think there are some flops, but you know what I'm saying? I think Mario's definitely pretty strong.
I mean, big shout out to Nintendo here in general too to have 2 nominations. You've seen Mario Wonder and Tears of the Kingdom have a good bit of nominations in this, so it's kind of like was it 2017 all over again, which is awesome to see. I mean, shout out to Mario Bros. Wonder to where I think it is probably the best 2D Mario that we've gotten.
So I will say, for me, this is personal opinion, kids. This is not who I think would win. If I had to pick one I think would win, just based off of what I've heard here, because again, I have not researched a lot of these games. It's sounding like Baldur's Gate 3 is a strong competitor for spot number 1. But off of personal opinion, the game that I love the most thus far has to be Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Just beat it the other day. The ups and downs in that game, the gameplay, the city, the storyline is just phenomenal, man. There's so many twists and turns in it. It's an absolute blast, bouncing from Peter Parker to Miles, facing the numerous villains. I felt the boss fights in this game were incredible. So I personally would have to go with Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So that would definitely be my pick. Really quick, I'm going to read JDB's comment here. Baldur's Gate 3 is people's choice. Re 4 is biased choice. And Zelda is the awards choice. So you think the awards are going to choose Zelda, JDB?
Interesting.
I'm going to get BG3 on Steam later so you can play. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We share Steam accounts, man. Shout out to my boy. Big love to my guy for blessing me with free games. That's wild to just be random on the pod. But yeah, man, any last thoughts on Game of the Year? I like that you guys both chose Baldur's Gate 3. It's sounding like the game that's potentially going to win, kids. Any thoughts on Spider-Man 2, gentlemen? Why not the choice of Spider-Man 2 or Re 4 or any of the others?
So for me too, something I look at is how much potential do you get from a game, right? What can get you the most hours? How much does the game offer you, right? I platinum Spider-Man 2 in 28 hours. I feel like that's kind of short overall, compared to a lot of other stuff. Zelda, I want to say around 100 hours ish, and I've done a lot, and there's a lot more I could do. And I know Baldur's Gate 3, I kind of feel like, Baldur's Gate 3 and Zelda have the most potential to them, right? As far as stuff you could do.
Okay.
Because, like, for Zelda, you have this one big, massive open world sandbox to where you can go through and, there's all sorts of different sort of, like, weapons that you can try to change up your playstyle with. And then in this game, you have the introduction of, you have the fusing with the weapons, but then in this game you also get all the different like vehicle building you could do too. And so once you get all creative with that, like there's so much time you can just spend just being creative, building all sorts of different stuff and being like, okay, let's use this contraption to fight these enemies. Does it work? Okay, great. Let's see if we could use this contraption against the boss now, right? And so there's just so much fun stuff you could do in that game when between all the different building now and different combinations of weapons. It's really cool. And then Baldur's Gate 3, that's kind of similar in its own ways because it's like, well, you have your own different option of characters of all those different D&D classes, and character options, and all the different ways that you can build up characters in D&D, which is a wide, there's so many different ways you can build up a character, right? And so, and then on top of that, there's so many different ways of outcomes to how certain storylines can go, and between all the different dialogue options. And it's one of those games that it doesn't stop you from killing anybody that you want, right? So if you kill the wrong person, well, hey, you can't do that quest anymore. And so it's a true RPG, Baldur's Gate 3 is, and so that's why I put that above Zelda for why I think that's going to win.
You guys are really selling me on Baldur's Gate 3 today. I'm like, dude, I kind of want to play this. This is sounding really good. Gio, any thoughts or opinions as to why you picked what you picked versus others?
Well, one I didn't mention what I think would win, which I think Baldur's Gate could have a pretty good chance of winning. If that doesn't win, I feel like they'll probably give it to Zelda, and for good reason. And I think I agree with a lot of what Spencer said. I don't think that on its own the amount of time is there's games that'll just pad the runtime, so you can't take that alone as an option, but it's what it relates to.
I think that's very strong, though. It's a very strong.
Nowadays,
reason.
A lot of games will pad the runtime, but I think what it relates to is how much time do you want to spend in that universe, right? So when you look at Zelda or Baldur's Gate as good examples of that, you want to keep going back and seeing more and delving more into that world. And even like a Resident Evil 4, there's a lot of replayability options. You want to do your speed runs or try to do different challenges, and some games have like a new game plus type of thing. I think Spider-Man 2 is nothing wrong with that as a game, but if we got to pick something. So I think, there's a lot. Baldur's Gate 3 has a lot going for it. Zelda could come out and win that. But I don't know if there's like a dark horse in this. Like maybe like RE4 would be the dark horse or something. But
I feel like
even if they did pick Spider-Man 2, I wouldn't even be entirely surprised about that either.
But I definitely would have to agree with you boys when it comes to runtime of Spider-Man 2. Just recently beat it, as I said. And the one thing I'm sitting here craving, you hit the nail on the head with, like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of these universes, Baldur's Gate, so like you want to come back. You want to spend more time there. There is more time to be spent. There's things to do. The world's massive. Versus Spider-Man 2, it's like, well, now what? Where's my DLC? Where's my new game plus option that doesn't exist? So these are valid points, Joe. Very valid points. You know what I'm saying? I definitely respect them. But the fun I had in Spider-Man 2, you know what I'm saying, is the reason I chose Spider-Man 2.
Great story.
But but it's so good, you want more, and there is not more to be had at this time. And I think there's
something to be said as well for leaving a game and still feeling that feeling, right, of wanting more, even if there isn't more there.
Definitely.
So it's like it's better that than the game wears out its welcome, right?
100%. JDB said Elden Ring got hoed, so I think Spider-Man 2 is going to pull some bullshit win.
Okay.
I think I understand what he means now. When I read that at first, I was like, you better not be talking shit about Elden Ring. But no, he was giving it props, so yeah, shout out.
All right, gentlemen. SF, did you have something to say really quick?
Yeah. I just want to say, there's so many different categories here that the one that came to mind is like best narrative. There's another one I think was like best action adventure or something like that. A lot of those games have similar ones that's in the game of the year. That a lot of those things can also determine, like, if you're more of a narrative driven person, that's why something like Spider-Man 2, I think that's maybe the best narrative driven here. Well, that or Alan Wake 2, because I've seen that. There's really
I want to check out the Alan Wake games, man. I'm hearing phenomenal things.
Yeah.
Is that a horror game, gentlemen? Do we know?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Another thing too that you might
It'd
not
be
be
right
aware
up your
of
alley.
Is there's also another game in the series, to my understanding, Control, I believe, is in that same universe.
Okay.
So was a really good, really well liked game. So that's, if you like the Alan Wake games, you might look into that as well.
I've actually tried that. It's pretty good.
I'm a big horror fan, man, and
I didn't know
I
they
think
were in
Alan
the same
Wake 1 is
universe.
free on PS Plus right now, so I might have to give that a go. All right, gentlemen, without further ado, we have made it to the final category of the 2023 Comic-Cons / Red Shirts Remastered Takeover Game of the Year Awards. I don't know, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for most anticipated game of 2023. Here we are with our options here. Final Fantasy Rebirth. I don't know what number that is. I'm gonna keep it honest. I don't know Roman numeral.
That's
What is
7.
that? All
That's
right.
7. It's a sequel to the Final Fantasy VII
Okay.
movie.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Thank you, SF. Hades 2. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Star Wars, Outlaws, or Tekken 8, gentlemen. How are we feeling? Gio, we'll start with you, baby.
Ooh, so yeah, it's tough. I would say for my personal pick, I would probably go with Hades 2. What I think is going to win would probably be, I might have to. Ooh, that's tough. Might have to. I think we might get Star Wars Outlaws winning here. I think there's a lot of good choices here. It just depends on your taste, right? If you're a fighting game fan, you're gonna be more excited for Tekken 8 than any of these other ones.
Right.
If you're a Final Fantasy fan or an RPG fan, you might go for either Final Fantasy or, well, Like a Dragon. I don't know if that really counts, but each of these has its dedicated fan bases that's waiting on them. But what I always go back to for a lot of these is like, I think with what they did with Hades for that first one, I think there's a lot of people who are looking forward to that, and I think it deserves some credit for what they're able to do with a I would say like a smaller studio than some of the, than like a Square Enix.
Yeah.
So I think that's worth highlighting. But I think Star Wars Outlaws might end up winning this because of the obviously Star Wars is a massive franchise. This is an open world Star Wars game, so there's a lot of hype behind that. We haven't gotten anything. There's supposed to be something about GTA 6 coming out, but we haven't got anything like that. So people are hungry for those kind of those style of games still. So I wouldn't be surprised if Star Wars Outlaws takes it.
I didn't even think of GTA 6. I think we're getting a trailer in December.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Around time.
Well, they officially said that, so they're putting themselves on that own quarter.
So that'll be around time of the Video Game Awards, but obviously we haven't seen it anywhere in India. It's because it's not dropping in 2023. That makes sense. My bad. Had to work that in my head, boys. But I definitely agree with you, man. I feel like Star Wars Outlaws is potentially going to be the one that takes it. Again, just the support of the audience that Star Wars brings. It's an open world Star Wars game that scratches every itch for me, man. That sounds like an absolute blast. So I'll probably have to go with Star Wars Outlaws as well. Didn't mean to cut you off, SF, but just to right off of what Gio said, I had to jump in there. Go ahead, SF. Tell us how you're feeling.
This is interesting because Star Wars Outlaws is definitely my most anticipated of all these, but I don't think that's the one that's going to win. I generally don't think so. I think the one that I think is probably going to win here, I feel like is Final Fantasy. Like that, I know. I don't know. I just feel like that one's going to win it just because there's been so much around that. I mean, there's a lot of hype about both of those. Like, I definitely think those are the big two that when you look at this list, those are the two that's fighting against each other here to take this.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree. I mean, Final Fantasy and Star Wars both have fan bases that are incredibly strong, but Tekken also has a good following. You know what I'm saying? Tekken has kept people's attention for years. At the end of the
day, though, it's a fighter game. I mean, it looks amazing, right? I've never gotten into Tekken, and this is like the first Tekken that I want to get into. So big shout out to that. You know, obviously it's doing something right there and having it on this list here, right? But at the end of the day, though, fighting games can only be so big, and I think they have.
Very true.
At the end of the day, I view it as kind of like a large niche. You know what I mean? Like they're huge, but they're only for particular kinds of people.
I definitely agree. You can only do so much.
I would agree with that. I think that Tekken is probably bigger than like a Dragon, but it's still
For
a
sure.
more niche audience. And then
Right.
like a Dragon, that's got a huge cult following, but it's not going to win the award, I don't think. And the only reason I didn't pick Final Fantasy 7 is I feel like some of the hype has died down with the remake that came out and stuff like that. Like I feel like people were more excited before, and now that they've seen kind of what they're expecting, what they're gonna get, and some of that hype has died down. But definitely, I still wouldn't be surprised if that won as well.
I mean, I feel like there's just been so much. Well, when we got that one trailer in the PlayStation State of Play, like you got to see some of the open world and like what this game has to offer was amazing, right? But I mean, same thing with Outlaws, right? Like they're very much, I feel like, in this race that it's close. I really
Those
think
probably
so.
the two biggest for which one I think's gonna win.
You're right.
I definitely would agree, boys. I unfortunately don't know much about Hades. As well, like a Dragon, like you said, kind of has a cult following, but that to me, that's the kind of, I wouldn't say random, but definitely the more odd choice I feel to be thrown into this category.
We both looked at this and we're like, wait, what?
Why is that
I
here?
was expecting this one here.
Shout out to everybody that loves that. Really quick, between starters and Tekken, Star Wars. Shout out to typos, JDB. Between Star Wars and Tekken, to be honest, I love Tekken, but I will choose Star Wars, and I don't even plan on getting it. He's like, just fuck what I want to play. I'll choose it. He's drawing a line in the sand, boys.
I mean, they literally made an alien axolotl to be a companion. Like, what's not to love there?
I mean, the fact that this is this is my first time hearing of the game. I need to research this. The fact that you boys said it's open world. Do you have a character already picked for you? Do you get to make a character? Do you guys know about this?
It's this predetermined chick that you see on the screen.
Because if they would have make a character, I'm buying it. Here's my wallet.
Uncharted, right? I got very heavy Uncharted vibes, but open world Star Wars.
Okay, still sounds really awesome. And from what I was understanding from you boys, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth is going to be open world. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, a lot more open. Yeah.
Come on, boys. Come on. I'm excited for both of those, man. Those both sound like
Sephiroth.
games.
You get to play as Sephiroth, I believe.
What?
Isn't that right?
The man with the sexy hair?
So.
Come on.
I could be wrong, but I believe so.
I'm done. That sounds like where my money's going soon. Gentlemen, I want to thank both y'all for being here. Do you guys have any final thoughts just as far as the Game Awards? Again, one of my biggest quarrels is like, why is there not a horror category for best horror game of the year? I feel like we get so many bangers horror-wise.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And they don't get love, man. They don't get love. We need that.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth co-director says making Sephiroth playable was the best way to allow the player to understand his point of view.
Very dope. That's so awesome. So
I guess we're gonna have like this whole added story with him where we get to see some of his point of view. So I guess adding a bit more to the original story and changing stuff, because I've heard they changed a bit from the original to the remake. So we'll see.
Be really amazing. Again, any final thoughts, gentlemen? Any complaints? Any nods to what they've done? Any respects? I don't know. Whatever.
You can go on.
I just think there is definitely a lot of work for them to do, but I appreciate them giving a platform to video games as a whole, and just having that, getting more eyes on the industry. I like, I want to see video games as an industry succeed, and to a certain extent, while I want to see more indie games and more odd choices than just the mainstream stuff. You got to start somewhere. So I think, I hope that they continue to grow, and then that'll help the industry. That's my hope of all of this. Definitely.
SF?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely piggyback off of what Gio just said, but it is a great platform, and it's one of those things to where like not everybody's going to be happy with what's picked at the end of the day, or even what's nominated, right? There's so many people disappointed. Like I personally would have think that like Final Fantasy 16 would have been on the Game of the Year over like Resident Evil 4 or something like that, right? And so there, and I think a part of that goes to show too, is this year I think has been very successful. It has been great for the consumers of the industry this year.
Definitely.
So many great game products we've got this year, especially we're kind of hit this point too, to where, COVID backed up a lot of projects. And so, some stuff that was maybe went for 21 to 22 that got pushed here to 2023, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that a lot of that quality shows too of also being like, okay, focus on making a good game. Don't rush something else out like another Call of Duty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's great to see that, like, this year, I feel like it's been kind of overwhelming with how many great games we've gotten, right? Like, like I said, I want to play the other two on that list. There's a lot of other games on other categories that, like, were very big contenders that could have been on that Game of the Year list that I want to play, and other big games that are, like, they're pretty good, but just not among, like, the 10 best that's really here, right? And so many great games this year. And so it's cool to see at least be able to be able to celebrate a fraction of these. And so I think that's awesome to have all these.
I definitely agree with you, boys. To piggyback off of Geo here a little bit as well. I mean, just what an era, what a time to live in, that we have a platform like this to where we can, as you said, I mean, just appreciate the games that were created, the games that were made over the year or the past year or whatever. Like, it's just a phenomenal time to be a nerd, guys. Is all I'm saying. It's just the best time in the world to be a nerd.
Absolutely.
We got the games, we got the movies, we're entertainment, baby. We're doing it big, kids. Anyways, guys, fellow Red Shirts, thank you boys for being here today, man. I thoroughly enjoyed rocking out with you guys. Chat, you guys have been absolutely incredible. JDB, thank you so much. He says, good discussion, y'all. We appreciate the hell out of you, boy. I love you. He actually does the Comic-Con's theme song.
Nice.
Check it out if you guys haven't heard it. It's on the YouTube.
Oh, no doubt. He did that, eh?
He did. Yeah, that's him, man. We used to make a little music together. He's a phenomenal artist. Shout out to Oki Podcast. Shout out to Chris in the chat. Correct. He's a red shirt.
Yes,
shout out to him. Young Classic Wolf. Check out Classic Wolf Podcast. Ryan the Collector Kid, guys. Go check him out. Just scrolling and showing love to everybody. Young Mellow, man. He was actually my very first supporter on Twitch, man, from day one. Shout out to you, bro. Thank you for being here. I love you. You know what I'm saying? Young Rustamus. I don't know if I shouted you out, but shout out Oki Podcast, boys. Gentlemen, again, shout out to you guys. Thank you for being here. This is the moment where if you guys got something to plug, please, 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 your platform, plug it up right here, man. Gio, we'll start with you, brother.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, not too much going on right now. I would just say, please give us a look over at Red Shirts Remastered. We're already monetized on Twitch, but we need some support over on the YouTube side of things. So if you have a chance, please go check us out, Red Shirts Remastered. And if you check out some of our videos, maybe give a like and a follow if you're so inclined, and we would really appreciate that.
Definitely. Absolutely.
SF,
go find me over on the Dingus Den for all your great nerdy comic content. Where let me see here. Last week we got Predator vs. Wolverine issue 1 out, and coming out this Friday, we're gonna have issue 1 of Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong, guest starring Classic that we saw at the very beginning.
Definitely, boys. Be sure to go and subscribe and follow these gentlemen. Red Shirts Remastered on YouTube and Dingus Den on YouTube. Both just W content all day. I'm a fan of what you guys do, man. Again, privileged to have you gentlemen here. Gio, I'd love to have you back. SF, I love making this your second home away from home, man. So it's always a pleasure to have you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it, comment. You guys already commented enough. You don't got to comment today, but subscribe up. Check us out on all streaming platforms. That's Comic Cons Podcast Kids. That's KHANS Con, as in Kings Kids. Comic Cons Podcast. That's Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you need a podcast, as well as on all forms of social media, Instagram, Twitter, or X as the kids call it now, Facebook. Anywhere you need it, we got it. TikTok Kids, Comic Cons Podcast. Again, check out Socks On or Off Podcast. That's Young Master Jules Podcast, my co-host over here. Classic Wolf Podcast, Okie Podcast, Soul Tap Podcast. That's my wife's show. She does a show. Go listen to her talk about stuff and make fun of me. It's always a good time. I'm trying to remember. You've heard me do this a million times, SF. Am I forgetting anybody? I don't have I said it. Go check out. There's just so many great shows. MacNez Podcast, kids. Did I say Socks On or Off? Oh, I'm going to say it again. Go check out Young Master Jules. He's a beautiful young bronzed man killing the game out here. That's my brother. I love him. Okie, I think I said everything today. Kids, thank you for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. Stay tuned. We're dropping an episode this Friday of me, SF, and a comic book fan, kids, from Twitch. Some of you know him, some of you don't, but come get to know him. He's a movie reviewer and a Twitch streamer. Has the best opinions when it comes to films, and he plays games. We'll be reviewing the one and only Spider-Man 2, so come on over there. Episode's already recorded. It'll be uploaded later. Come see us, kids. Come see us, 12 p.m. CST on the YouTube, kids. Until next time, though. Thank you all for coming, and go collect something. Have a wonderful day. We're out. Yes, sir. Bye.
Peace and love, everybody.
Peace. Yes, sir.